And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
Hey, this box is heavy, man. This is Spheres of Influence, which when I looked at the back of it, I thought, wow, that is a pretty cool looking board. And we'll show you the board in a second. And then I started going through the rules and I was like, oh, it's Risk again. It's another one of those games where someone played Risk and they said, we can do it better. Now, here's the funny thing, though. I haven't played any of those games for a while because there was a lot of people making Risk-style games, but I haven't played one in a few years, really, other than the very complex style ones. But this one didn't seem to be that complex. Yes, it came with 6 kabillion cubes in it, but you get to play more than one color? Well, maybe I'm a little bit more interested. Let's see if this game's any good after all. This is the board of the game of the world, which is broken up into different territories. There's little dotted lines between the different territories. There's a few mountain ranges here. Each territory is grouped together by color into a sphere. So there are several spheres all over the world, which is what gives the game its name. Each player is going to get a certain number of colored cubes. So if there's 5 or more players, you only get 1 each. But if there's less than that, you'll get 2, maybe even 3 of the colors. And when you get those colors, you get a huge pile of cubes that you'll be using. Players are going to be drawing cards that show starting regions, and you'll draw 2 and pick one. That's where you'll start. And if you have multiple ones, you'll draw 2 more and pick another one. And you'll have 3 cubes placed out here. Now you'll notice there's numbers on the different territories and sometimes symbols. The big number is a production number. That is essentially, it's going to help you get more units. So some of the areas, like for example over here, India and China, you can see have big numbers on them. There's also this oil symbol that will move you on the oil production track. There are some spots when you get these spots, you will draw special cards by going into those. And some of the spots have these big circles on them. That's just essentially so that you can see the number in that area. This here is the chart where players will be keeping track of your production. As you move your, get the different numbers, you'll add them together and move up and down as you gain and lose territories. And the big number is that adding together all those numbers, the small orange number is the number of units that you'll get each turn. Down here is where you're going to win the game. If you control an entire sphere, you will move down. Every time you control a sphere, and every time you control a capital city, you will move over also. Now, I mentioned at the beginning of the player's turn, everyone's going to get production here. Players will also get production for each starting capital they control. So they'll always get at least 2 units for the 2 that they started with if it's a 4-player game, and maybe more if they capture other people's starting territories. And of course, you could get less if you lose them. Down here is the oil production, and this matters. This shows you how many turns you get each turn. At the beginning of the game, each player is going to be putting 2 cards of their color into this deck, and this is going to be the turns that are going to come up. For each oil card, each oil territory you control, you will get to put additional cards in the deck. So the more oil territories that you control, the more cards you have in the deck. This deck is going to be shuffled, and each turn of the game you'll turn over a card, and that's the person whose turn it is. They get 1 turn. Then we turn over the next card, and that person gets a turn, and we keep going through that. We're going to do that for a certain number of rounds, and at the end of the rounds, whoever has the most spheres/capitals is the winner. So on a player's turn, it's pretty simple. They can take some cubes and move to an adjacent region, taking over that region, adjusting their numbers. And so the more oil that you have, you're going to be able to move more, but you're going to need more cubes. So maybe you'll have more cubes later on. And you can move into these ocean regions. And in fact, when you move into an ocean region, you have another bonus move where you can move to another ocean region. And unlike land regions, you don't need to leave a cube behind, but you can only do that once, and then spread into more areas. Now, obviously, when you move into an area where there's going to be enemy troops, you are then going to have a combat. And depending on how many cubes moved in, each side is going to roll dice. Now, in this game, you're going to roll dice, 1 6-sided die for each unit that's in a combat, with a total of 5. So let's say 3 units were attacking 2 units. These would be the dice that we rolled. And then you're going to look for totals of 6s. So white has 1 hit, they have a 6. And then red has a 3 and a 4, which is 7. That's more than a 6, but the other 4 is not enough to get a 6. So they each get 1 hit. You'd remove 1, and you keep going until one side wins. However, the defensive player will get to roll this die here. This die will either give you an extra hit automatically, or cancel one of your opponent's hits, or nothing. You even get to roll extra of these dice if you're defending against a sea invasion, and players can always discard a special card to get an extra die, whether the attacker or the defender. These special cards, by the way, are cards you're going to get from whenever you take over a territory that has one in it. These cards can always be discarded for an extra cube when you're adding more armies to the board. They can be discarded for an extra dice in combat, and then they're going to do multiple other things over the course of the game. You just play them when it says. For example, here, this says play during a round of combat you're involved in, you get an extra kill against your opponent. That's a sniper. Here, play this card during the mobilization phase, you get 2 extra turn cards. So it's like having oil just for that turn. Here's a draft, you get 2 extra units. Air supremacy, you get an extra action this turn. Diplomacy, drop zone, resupply, oil boom, nuclear missile. This one's very deadly. You basically can just blow someone's whole territory up and no one can go in that territory. However, you have to discard 3 other cards from your hand to pull this off. And so there's all types of cards, and you can play these when you have a chance, and you'll be probably playing them very often. So you're going to be just doing this back and forth, trying to control regions, or spheres, I mean. Once you get a unit into every spot in a color region, you control that sphere, which automatically gives you a capital. Whoever has the most spheres wins, although having extra capitals will break the tie, which there could very likely be. Wow, color me surprised. And this game isn't going to turn the world upside down. It's not amazing, but it's good, and I really enjoyed it. This is what we would call a risk killer. You should never play Risk again, unless you play Risk Legacy, which is amazing. But you should never play Risk again. This is Spheres of Influence. This is the game that is better than that. And it's simple and it's fun, and that card mechanism, I love it. I love how that works. Because, yeah, sure, it's random when your card comes up, you're like, please let my card be next, please let it be next. Or please let it be later on because I don't have anything really to do right now, and I don't want to waste my card action. I want to see what the other person does first. But once you capture those oil areas, you have more cards. And that's such a neat concept because you can say, all right, I'm going to deliberately capture areas with oil and have more cards in the deck. But those ones with oil have a whole lot less people. So the more cards you have in the deck, it seems like sometimes the fewer troops you have. A perfect balance might be to take over a bunch of Asia and then to get a bunch of oil spots. And then you have the manpower and you can have a lot of cards. But then probably you're not getting a lot of special cards that the other players have. It's a really good self-balancing game. The players don't have these long turns, like Risk. It's like, roll, go, 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 go. Sit Australia, take Australia and get extra things and go. No, here all over the world. And the board wraps like most of these do, so you're never quite safe in any one spot. It does have a bit of a beat down the leader because we very clearly delineate on that board who is ahead at any given point in time. Combat is okay. I mean, it's nothing really new, roll 6s. I do like the defensive die. That's a cool idea, but that whole add up to get 6s, that's okay. But you know what? I liked it anyway. It's light. The box here, the time limit on the box says 1.5 hours, and I really doubt that's going to happen in an 8-player game. Just not going to happen. That's a lie, all right? But in a 5-4 3-player game, which I love because of the multiple colors, that's just a cool idea, it will work in that regard. So in that aspect, again, I'm not saying this is amazing, play it. But if you like Risk and if you like light dudes on a map, I recommend it. Now, they shouldn't have used cubes. Little soldiers might have been better. Anything, tanks, mechs, whatever. But cubes, come on now. But they did put a lot in there, and that would have been super expensive. But it takes away a little bit from the theme. Anyhow, still a solid game. I was surprised, and I'm always glad to be positively surprised like that. Spheres of Influence. Dice Tower Judgment, approved!
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.
Shut the door!